Hello, everyone. Welcome to Film Frauds, where myself, Matt, and my two co-hosts, Tyler and Mark, give our completely unprofessional and 100% biased opinions on the films of today, tomorrow, and of old. This is Film Frauds, and today we are talking about my recommendation, one of my favorite movies of all time,
Oh my God!
Dredd,
He's holding up
What
a
is
sign.
that?
2012.
Is that signed by Carl Urban?
Yes, it says he wrote Matt, I Am the Law, Carl Urban.
Did you
I met
go
him.
and get that just so you could have this
I
video?
did.
Oh my God!
Absolutely.
How much did you pay for it?
Like $40, I think. It was worth it. It was just nice to talk to him. I used my journalism insider. I was like, hey, any rumblings on a new Dredd movie? And he goes, if the script's good, I'll do it. I
Thanks.
was like, yes.
Can I sell that? And he's like, no.
Yes. So here at Film Prods, each of us every week recommends a movie, and I recommended Dredd because I love it. And we're gonna start off our discussion with non-spoilers, which is probably pretty short, and then we're gonna get into spoilers because I want to talk a lot about this movie, and I think we all have something to say about it. Do you want to tell us what Dredd is about, Tyler, or give a brief synopsis?
All right. Dredd is not a character. He fights people. He's a interesting non-character who brutally murders bad guys in Cersei Lannister and has a lot of fun doing it. And the movie's kind of great, but it's also not kind of great. It's a weird movie. I had fun with it. So
okay, Mark, what are your first impressions of Dredd now that you've rewatched it?
I didn't remember being as gory as it was.
Yeah.
It's quite a gory movie. Yeah, I liked it. Some points I was sort of losing interest, and then I got pulled back in. But yes, it is a good movie, and I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, this is the most RoboCop movie since RoboCop came out, both in terms of he's like a super soldier police officer and in like the social commentary of the movie. This feels like a Paul Verhoeven movie, and we should preface by saying that the movie was written by Alex Garland, but directed by someone who I don't know. But it's been kind of general common knowledge of late. I think Carl Urban said that Alex Garland basically directed the movie too. So if you don't know who Alex Garland is, he's the guy who did Ex Machina and Annihilation, and recently did the Hulu short series called Dead. So he's a very accomplished writer and director, and I think it shows here in this movie. Even though it doesn't really feel like a typical Alex Garland movie, usually they're more like serious in their tone. I thought that this movie was kind of a different sort of struck a different sort of tone because of all like the satire in the movie. Did you guys pick up on all the satire in it?
Yes. It's a weird movie to kind of like look in like a weird context. It came out in 2012.
Yeah.
And it's in this weird area or ground. Because we should also preface this: the movie bombed. It's well known as kind of one of those movies that's highly regarded, but no one went to see it. And I feel like that's an interesting thing to kind of look at because it came out in this weird Raid Redemption kind of but before John Wick era of action movies where the interest in action movies was starting to transition to, hey, like there's a respectable craft here when you kind of do these slow takes and these kind of like long shots and the actions on screen. And this in the Raid Redemption kind of feel like the precursor to that interest, but no one went to go see it. And I feel like this is a movie that has aged really well with how the kind of the climate of action movies has had. But that's kind of my opinion. Yeah, there's a lot of like biting satire about this, about kind of like an authoritarian government. And I think that's really interesting. Yeah, that was just my quick little blurb about it.
Anything to add, Mark?
No, not really. I agree with what Tyler just said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's not too much to. There's not really too much to say. It's just an action movie. Like it's.
Yeah,
it's not exactly.
So I've been studying sociology and in school, and now that I've watched this movie after studying these classes, I realized that there's actually it's pretty smart with how it handles like the nature of criminality, which I think is pretty relevant for today as like the nature of crime. And like they make sure because the whole plot of the movie is basically they get locked down in this living complex called Peachy Trees, which has 96% unemployment and is one of the most like it's like one of the least structured and
It's
least safe places to
crime-ridden.
live in. What?
It's
Yeah, one of the most
crime-ridden.
crime-ridden places to live in this world. And so it touches on the fact that like there's a correlation between unemployment and getting into crime, which is common theory and what causes people to commit crimes and criminology. And it's kind of the satire, I think, comes from the fact that this law force, like the judges, have all these tanks and all this crazy weaponry, and they're state of the art, high tech, and yet like this whole society is completely in shambles still. So it's kind of showing that putting money and resources into policing isn't really working to solve the high crime rates in this society. It's showing that it's just getting worse and worse, no matter like the fact that they have these super soldiers running around trying to stop it. It's not doing anything in the long run. So I thought like that's where a lot of like the good satire that understands like the nature of crime comes from.
Yeah, and I feel like that character of Dredd is a really good face for that. There's a weird well, one first off, I should preface that I do like this movie, but there's also multiple attempts. If we go in line with this kind of satire, there are multiple attempts where the film doesn't characterize Dredd purposefully.
Yeah.
There's this great part opening where they introduce the sidekick. I can't remember her name, Anderson.
Yeah.
And she's
Rookie.
like the rookie,
Yeah, the rookie.
and she's like reading Dredd's mind, and she's like, "Oh, I see control, but behind that control." And then the police chief is like, "Oh, we don't have time for that. Like that's
Yeah.
another time." And then
Yeah.
there's like, and you're like, okay. And I do like him as like this face of this kind of satire, but there's also like this slow world building where people are like, "That's Judge Dredd." Like he's kind of this renowned like authoritarian figure, and I think that's a really cool kind of element. And it also works similarly like as a movie. Surprisingly, dehumanizing Dredd works well in this movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It does. I feel like create this area where I don't feel as though Anderson is that interesting of a character. So then there's this weird middle ground where you don't really have anyone to latch onto for the movie. Well, at least for me, that's how it felt like. I didn't find Anderson that engaging. And that was kind of a really big problem of the movie for me because the entire movie is essentially from her perspective. And kind of you're viewing the world from her, which I think is a big fault in the movie for me. I know how you guys felt about
I
it.
liked her as like the eyes that the viewer sees things through, because she doesn't understand the world like the audience. So like she's not the most complex character in the world, but you see slowly as the movie goes along how she becomes more hardened to what's going on around her. So I feel like there is some good character development there with her, both just based on her actions alone. And I think she's a good vessel for the protagonist, for the audience to experience this world, because Dredd is just completely hardened to the world. You can't really relate to him at all. But I liked Anderson a lot. I think the actress did a good job, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do think she does a good performance. I do think her character development is very surface level. It's very telegraphed from the beginning. She's this doe-eyed, kind of naive person who thinks she can make a change in a world that has kind of snuffed change. There's a great line of the movie where they go like, there are like 1,600 reported crimes every day, and we can only respond to 6 of them. So you just kind of pick and
6%,
choose.
6%, yeah.
Or it's 6%, sorry. And it's like we just kind of pick and choose. But I think that her character arc is very easily telegraphed, which is a big reason why I was like, it kind of felt like I knew where it was going. I had seen this movie before. I saw it back when I was kind of like just discovering like good movies.
Yeah.
And I liked it at the time, and my feelings haven't really changed for it. I had an issue with that kind of elements before, and I still do now. I do think there's a lot of good stuff in this movie, though. I think the first like 6-7 minutes of the movie perfectly capture the world and the characters and everything. It sets up everything you need to know about it, and I really dug that.
Yeah.
Well, for me, this movie's kind of a little scary in the sense that it seems like a future that is plausible. Like that seems like something that might happen down the line. Just the state of things. It's sort of, a free-for-all state of nature, sort of not exactly like Lord of the Flies, but
It's kind of like Mama's story, sort of like Lord of the Flies. Like the criminal
Yeah.
underworld in itself is a lot like Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
I would say.
The drug is basically like the conch, I guess.
Yeah.
That's what the power is, I guess.
Also, the selling, like having being able to sell it is the
power of the control. Yeah. What I don't know if it exactly bothered me, but just the whole fact, that Anderson was like a mutant. I was like,
Yeah, I have an
I
issue
don't
with that in
know.
the movie. It feels incredibly out of place for this kind of more or less grounded world, sort of.
Hmm.
Her psychic abilities also don't really feel like they add anything to the story unless to kind of add some wittier moments or uncover some stuff. Her
Hmm.
psychic abilities are basically justification for Dredd to kill people at the end, um, which is just kind of interesting to me.
Well, they use it. So first of all, they whenever someone finds out she's a telepath. No,
Yeah. I think they
telepath
just
or
call her
whatever.
psychic or whatever.
Psychic. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Psychic. Like people go like, oh well, that's weird. Like usually your people have like 3 arms or no arms or something. That's what Anton Barksdale, the guy from
Yeah.
The Wire, says, the drug dealer.
Hmm.
So it's like it's implied, I think, that sort of like in Total Recall, that it's probably a result of like nuclear radiation or something that
Mm.
causes them to have these powers. And Dredd uses her earlier on because when they're trying to break into that room where everyone's doing slow mo, she says like, "Oh, how many people are behind the door or whatever," and she counts them using her psychic power. So I think they do a good job of integrating why psychics would be valuable allies to have for the judges.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but the thing, like my issue with it though is I feel like it partially hinders her character a little bit because I feel like having this person, because her whole thing is she's a psychic and she's a really strong one, but she didn't pass the dread test or whatever, the judge test.
Yeah.
She's like a few points from behind, so Dredd takes her on like a normal day out and just is like, all right, like basically like you screw up and you fail and you don't get it. And I feel like exploring her character more in depth from that perspective, someone who has those kind of like naive goals without the psychic is like has to kind of like face things head on instead of having these gifted abilities. It kind of stood out. One of those things wasn't as engaging, and I also feel like it also adds to some of my least interesting parts of the movie, which is like the weird psychic fights she has with the guy from The Wire. I didn't really like it that much. I'll be honest.
But that also goes into why they're useful, because they're able to break for interrogation. Like they're used for they can be used for interrogation purposes as well. So I don't know. I disagree. I think that the psychic doesn't feel out of place at all, because it fits with this sort of dystopian society where the judges are desperate via any means to get one up the crime that's completely taking over their
Mhm.
society.
Yeah, I mean,
I really like the like that sort of mind sequence where. Well, are we getting into spoilers right now? Like, should we transition into?
Yeah.
We can do a few more like non-spoilers, like
Okay. Well, I just the whole like using her that sort of that power struggle that she has in the middle of the movie. I thought that was really well done. I really liked that sequence. It was good. So
I
yeah.
like how it kind of is like Anton Barksdale, the drug dealer, is like sending her images in his mind. So it's not like it's like a whole scene's playing out, which I feel like would be kind of stupid. I kind of like how it's like fast, like really like violent and horrible images. And I don't know. I felt like the way they filmed like the psychic battle was interesting.
well, that's also
Yeah.
like there's like a solid 15 minutes in the movie that I think aren't like it's right in the middle and it starts to focus because her Anderson and Dredd are separated for a little bit and it's about 15 minutes and it focuses more on the dynamic between Anderson and the Wire guy, which I didn't think was that engaging. I really kind of enjoyed the dynamic between Dredd and Anderson, this hardened, non-caring like deity figure with this new rookie. I thought was an interesting dynamic, but her kind of like experiencing like the filth. I wish she would have done that in tandem with Dredd. So you see that contrast of, hey, look, Dredd's completely like unfazed by the filth that he sees, but then you see Anderson's reaction. It's a nice contrast to how the world is. Instead, we kind of get that separated, and I think the movie kind of grinds to a halt for a little bit. And then eventually, I'm dogging on this movie a lot. I do like it, but I do think there are problems with it.
Mhm.
Um,
I think the movie is shot very well. The cinematography and just the look of the movie, I
Especially
really
the
liked.
slow-mo scenes are really, really well
Yeah,
done.
yeah, it's real. I believe the fact that Alex Garland basically ghost directed this because I was very impressed by the camera
Yeah.
work.
Before we go into non-spoilers, I just want to talk about Lena Headey, because I think that she's the best part of this whole movie.
yeah.
Mhm.
Both her acting and the character herself. Like we were talking earlier, how like the two main characters don't have that much depth. I feel like they go a long way into giving Mama a lot of depth,
Mhm.
and I don't. We can talk more about it because like the ending of the movie is really great, and I want to talk more about it in spoilers. But they do a really good job of making you understand why Mama is the way she's. Like this is Petrie's is a very hardened society, and that the only way you can rise to the top is by being as violent and horrible as possible, as ruthless as possible. So, and I both in her performance as well. She has a very good American accent as well. I have to say that as well.
She's not American?
No, she's British.
She's British?
Yeah,
Is Carl Urban British?
he is. He's a Kiwi.
He's a Kiwi. Oh my
Yeah.
god. How thick is his
Mm.
like Australian accent?
No, it's New
No,
Zealand.
New Zealand, sorry. How thick is
Um,
his New Zealand accent when you saw him?
when I talked to him, it wasn't that prominent.
It wasn't? Okay.
Yeah.
Because he's got like
When I
this.
talked to him, I was like, it's like, hey, he's like, oh, oh, hey, Matt, how are you?
You're like, yeah. Yeah, I don't I feel like we could probably get into spoilers now.
Yeah.
I do like this movie. I feel like we all do are in the same boat.
Yep.
Matt, what were some of your favorite scenes in the movie? Going into spoilers.
So I have two favorite scenes. I like the scene where Mama has all the turrets all lined up,
Yeah.
and Dredd's just running for his life.
Yeah.
Because he just knows he's screwed, and it's like and like all around him, like everyone's just getting like annihilated by like these guns, and just shows like Dredd is more concerned about killing the evil rather than saving the good,
Yeah.
which I think is interesting. How like the judge philosophy is more focused on eliminating the evil rather than trying to like encourage and protect the good. So like, that was cool. I don't know. And my other favorite scene, other than the ending, we talk about the ending I think all together, but because it's brilliant. And my other favorite scene is when the other judges come and
Yeah.
and Dredd is being surrounded by two of them. And this, I think, what separates this movie from other action movies is that ammo is like a factor in this movie. Like
Yeah.
they're constantly running out of resources and stuff in this movie. And like when the guy's coming at him with the shotgun, and he's like yelling into his gun because it's voice commanded to change the ammo. And he's just trying to find ammo for something
Yep.
to shoot at him with. And then he just finds like the high X, I think, which is just like a
Yeah.
kind of like
High
a grenade
explosive
sort
round.
of
Yeah.
thing. It just obliterates him. It's his last bullet.
Yeah.
So like I think that movie, I think that scene really emphasized to me like the dire situation they're in, because like they're like usually in other movies ammo doesn't matter. People just have an infinite supply, and I liked how you kind of start thinking more lines of like how many resources they have to make it to the top. So like those are my two favorite scenes, I would say.
That
I
was
don't
Mark's dog, by the way. I just want to throw
Yeah.
that out there.
Yeah.
Little loud bark.
Little thunder out there.
I agree. My favorite scene, or one of my favorite shots in the movie, Matt, is actually right after the turret scene.
Yeah.
When again, Alex Garland is a wonderful director. I really like Ex Machina and Annihilation. So after the turret, there's like this big haze of smoke, and Dredd walks out from the smoke, throws the guy off the balcony, and just turns around and walks back, and you're just like, that's lovely.
Yes.
You're like, that's great. That was probably the biggest laugh of the movie for me, because it's so nonchalant too. It's so just kind of like a strut, a throw, and then he just turns around. But no, I do think there's a really great sense of escalating conflict in this movie. We get an establishing action in the movie in the beginning with how kind of Dredd handles situations. Then they have this first scene where they take the guy from the wire. Then the place goes on lockdown. Then Mama basically goes, all right, kill the judges. And it's like, you'll get basically like, you're under my wing if you kill the judges.
Yeah.
Boom. Wonderful. The Raid does that really well, where you like, it's basically like a video game. This is also similar. You go floor to floor to floor, eliminating bad guys.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful escalation of conflict. Mark, did you have any scenes that you really liked?
I think my favorite part of the movie is sort of that meat grinder speech of the cop, where he's like, this city's a meat grinder. Yeah. And people go in, and then meat comes out. All we do is turn the wheel.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. The whole group of corrupt judges. I thought that was a great plot point, and I also love that moment where Dredd comes out of the smoke and he just tosses that guy over the balcony and he just goes back in. He's just an absolute force of nature.
Yeah.
It gives him personality too, because it shows like he's kind of a jerk in a way, because he's just trying to intimidate her, like, hey, I'm still alive. Like, there's such great. I think that's a great characterization for him.
I should also preface that Dredd does have a character. It's just not explicitly stated. He has that one instance where he encounters the two kids. Yeah. And you would expect in this movie, because you've been given examples of Dredd just kind of like not mindlessly, but no merciless killing people. He basically goes like, hey, like I'm giving you a warning. Okay, now I'm gonna kill you. But he stuns the kids and lets them live, and that's a great little like, okay, so he's not like this mindless like murder machine. I do like that element. Dredd's a really fascinating kind of example. He has that great speech. The throwback.
I am the law.
The throwback to the Stallone. I am the law.
Except much better.
It's so much better. It's framed really well. You're focusing on like his lower half of his face.
Yeah.
It's great.
Also, credit to Carl Urban for never taking the helmet off as well.
Yeah.
He has a helmet on the whole movie.
Yeah.
So you got to give him credit for that.
Yeah. There's also like reasoning to it too, though, because at the end of the movie, the chief asks him like, "How was it?" And he's like, "Drug bust gone wrong. They were uncooperative." He doesn't like. There's only one moment of struggle for Dredd in the movie, and it's not even necessarily a struggle, because he has Anderson.
Yeah.
But I feel like that adds to kind of like that it's just another day in Dredd's life, because he never has to take the helmet off and like do anything out of the ordinary, which I thought was a nice little touch.
Yeah, I would say
he's just a pure extension of the law. Like, he's the law. I mean, he says, "I am the law," but like he's just a personification of the law.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a metonym for the law.
Oh my god.
A metonym?
Yeah.
That's a word.
What on earth is a metonym?
You know how like when you say like in Game of Thrones, we're like we got word from the crown, which means it's word from the king.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the crown is a metonym for the king.
Okay, I see.
It's like you're an English major, Matt.
Yeah, it is. I love that word.
Oh my god.
It's also like when you say he's an extension of the law, like it shows in the way he negotiates with people. Because in the first scene where he's hunting down those three guys that are causing road rage or whatever, and then the last guy has the girl hostage, and he goes, his negotiation is, if you let her down now, you'll only get life in prison
with no parole.
Yeah. And he's like, well, yeah, with no parole. And he's like, why would I want that? And he goes, fine, whatever. Now I have to kill you.
What does he say after?
Inhuman.
What does he say? He's like, no, and then the judge is like, all right. Negotiation's over. Hot shot, and blows him up.
It's like, what? Nice. Said hot shot.
You're like, yeah.
Yeah.
This is a really sorry, Mark.
I love just his one-liners. When Lena Headey falls, Mama falls and dies, and he just goes, yeah, and then he just walks away.
Speaking of which, you want to talk about that scene?
The Lena Headey scene, yeah.
What did you feel during that scene?
It's great. It's
catharsis.
Lovely. Yeah. There's like a great sense of build-up within that, because she goes, yeah, everyone will blow up, and he's just like, all right, like, sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
It's lovely. It's also like the use of slow-mo in this is really kind of interesting. I don't know, like it's nice to have action scenes framed from it because it allows style. It's a very like muted gray movie, with Dredd's helmet often being like the only color besides like kind of the neon signs in the back or those signs that light up. But when they take the slow-mo drug, it kind of becomes like this vibrant colors, and then it allows for more creativity. I think there might be a little bit too much of it at times because it is a short movie.
Only an hour and a half.
Hour and a half. Yeah. I feel like at a certain point I wanted like I feel like there should have been 3 key scenes of slow-mo. The first action shot to show how it works, one scene in the middle to kind of make it creative, and then we have the end scene to emphasize Lena Headey's death. But I feel like there's a few more instances of it sprinkled in, and I was like, becomes a little bit too much in a short movie.
Am I the only one who feels bad for Mama at the end when he gets thrown off? Did anyone feel sympathy for her?
No, why?
I felt a shred of sympathy because of her backstory.
because you get the feeling like she's forced to do, like you get the feeling that she's a more dynamic character than Dredd. Like Dredd literally picks her up, smashes her through the window with absolutely no remorse for her at all, and then like the slow fall, like she's looking at her crumbled empire as she's slowly descending. I don't know. I feel like that scene is supposed to make you feel kind of mixed about the justice that she gets because she is such a complex character, and Dredd is just this one-dimensional. I'm just gonna murder anyone who commits anything bad. Sort of like he's an objectivist, and I don't know. I feel like that was filmed in a way where you're supposed to go bad for her because it's in slow motion, and he just has literally zero remorse for her at all, and she just kind of like can't do anything about it.
Does Dredd dispel any justice that isn't murder in this movie? Does he go? Because a few times he goes like attempted something, 3 years in ISO.
Yeah, well, there's that homeless guy underneath like the.
that cruel bit of irony. Yeah,
I was like, why would he not just get up and move if he was gonna go to the ISO cube?
Yeah. Well, there's that like.
And he goes, what? And he looks up and he just gets smashed, and then Dredd feels nothing about it.
Yeah, he's like, all right, I told him. But no, I understand what you're saying with the Lena Headey death, mainly because of that one framing shot where it's framed. She basically falls on the camera. It's supposed to represent the ground, and you see like the blood start to funnel through, and you can see like the impact because it's basically like they just had Lena Headey. They had her face pressed up against glass slowly. Yeah, that's how they probably accomplished the shot. And I feel like that's supposed to. You're probably right. Like emphasize like, oh, like this is like he made the villain take a slow-mo drugs so her death was very prolonged and suffering.
Yeah. I like to imagine Tyler just sitting there laughing the whole like 2-minute sequence, like
maybe.
Yeah, Tyler chooses the most not exactly inappropriate, but just the weirdest times in a movie to laugh.
There's my favorite time ever is Jurassic World where Matt and I laughed. The Velociraptor. What's the little raptor thing? Blue. When it's like the two dinosaurs. How do you remember that? We saw that in theaters once. It was the two giant T-Rexes fighting, and then it cuts to like a long shot, and the raptor's like, Arr! And then like runs
it's supposed to be like this awesome shot, like, oh yeah, Blue's coming to save the day, but in reality, like he's just gonna get annihilated.
We were the only people I think that laughed in that theater, and I think we annoyed a lot of people.
My favorite Tyler laughing moment is during Hardcore Henry.
Oh my god,
that's a great movie.
Oh my god!
Every time Charlotte Copley's character does anything, he would just start laughing, and the skill would fall out of his pocket and go. And the guys were so angry.
They were sitting so close to us. That wasn't my fault.
I was like, we're gonna walk out of this theater and we're gonna get jumped.
No. They go, they'd ask you, are you two with me? And you just go, no, and then they just jump me. You guys have joined in.
Never seen a man in my life.
Yeah.
Listen, it's.
I remember, Tyler, when we saw Cats, which was a horrific experience, and I blocked most of that memory as much as possible. The theater was quiet, and it's like a serious moment, and it's like Judi Dench like doing some speech or something, and you just would not stop laughing. You were so loud, and I was so embarrassed. I was like, my god.
Okay. When we saw Cats, I left the theater for about 8 minutes. I went to the bathroom. I sat on the toilet and went on my phone. I didn't go to the bathroom. I just went on my phone. I came back, and it was still the same scene, and I snapped a little bit. I came back, and they were still talking about something, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. And then Dame Judi Dench did, like, emotion, and all I could picture was making this old lady, because she's old. I imagine they, like, attached wires to her. And just like did it herself.
Like a marionette.
Yeah, that made me laugh a lot.
The only thing you missed was Idris Elba just suddenly showing up naked to the scene. That's it.
Yeah.
I've never been more happy that I was across the Atlantic Ocean than in that moment when you guys saw Cats without me, because I literally could not go.
I can say I only laughed once in Dredd. There is like one. I love Domhnall Gleeson's in this movie somehow.
Wait, Domhnall Gleeson's in Dredd?
Yeah.
Oh my, he's the computer guy.
Yeah, he's the computer guy. I wrote down as I take notes. I just have Domhnall Gleeson and then a bunch of exclamation points. He's
I
like,
didn't realize that was him.
He has like this weird like. This is why I have trouble like feeling sympathy for Mama, because that's supposed to be our sympathetic. Like Anderson spares it. Dredd was gonna kill him. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, he was.
he was
Or
ready to
giving
execute him.
giving him the easy route of
Yeah.
life imprisonment without parole.
Or death right there.
Yep.
But Anderson lets him go because Anderson, I guess that's one cool moment of the psychic abilities where she like peers into his mind and find that Mama like gouged out his eyes and then
Yeah.
replaced them with like computer eyes, and he's clear like this suffering person who then escapes. Like he survives.
Yeah. I
Actually,
think
he's
there's like
the one
some
person.
implied like sexual abuse
Like,
as well.
yeah, it's
Like
weird.
there's some weird stuff going on.
That's why I had trouble feeling sympathy for Mama, because I feel like that's supposed to be one of our like, hey, look at this like character who's clearly negatively impacted by the world and Mama. And
Yeah.
so when she died, I was like flashback to Dom Huck Gleason, the scene where they even show Mama like gouge out the eyes. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I was like, Jesus. Yeah, there's a lot of like, the opening title card is really great. It's just an explosion. I was like, that's awesome. That's neat.
Yeah. Well, but go back to the Mama thing. I think the way you feel like the sympathy you feel for her is because, going back to that meat grinder speech, she's just a product of what the city is. And, she was in one sector or something, and she was like a prostitute, I think. And then she just
Yeah.
rose up the ranks because
Yeah.
that's how she survived.
Mhm.
By
'Cause
being as
that's the-
merciless as possible.
by being as
yeah.
merciless as possible, but that's sort of what the city did to her.
Yeah, she had no
I mean,
choice.
I'm sure she wasn't inherently a psychopath.
Yeah.
And it's just the city's a meat grinder, and she's like a person like Mama is just inevitable.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, in a way, that's how you sort of feel sympathy for her.
Yeah.
So
I have a question about this movie for you guys. So this movie made $40 million on a $45 million budget. It was
Dang.
released in
Yikes.
2012. Do you think if this movie was released in like 2018 or now, basically, do you think it would have done better? I think it would have. I think it would have done considerably better.
People are more open to see like new action movies, like thanks to movies like John Wick and stuff, which had
Yeah.
no prior property ties before. So like, and especially with like the new interesting comic book movies as well, you can say, oh, Dredd's based off a comic book or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that I don't think this movie would have been like a hit, like a blockbuster hit by any means, but I think that it probably would have found an audience and would have made its money back and probably would have been profitable in a certain way.
I feel like we would have gotten a sequel to this movie because you have to think this is again like in a post Deadpool world too. Because Deadpool was that weird gamble movie where they basically went, we're not going to give a ton of money to a hard R action movie. And I know Deadpool's a different character than Dredd. He's far more recognizable. You show the Deadpool face, and you're like, that's Deadpool. But
Thanks
it's
to
also
Wolverine X-Men Origins.
Yeah. But it's also like you take that now. I'm thinking about X-Men Origins. There's that great scene where he does the claws, and they're just clear like I love X-Men Origins. Do you remember that was gonna be a franchise too? They're gonna make an X-Men Origins Magneto. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Rip.
no, like it's now we're in like a post like Deadpool climate where I feel like studios went, oh my god, Deadpool made $700 million. Hey, like we're gonna like market Dredd a little bit more. Let's get people in here. Like if you think about it, like Edge of Tomorrow, didn't do great, but it has had such a great reputation on like Blu-ray and streaming. While Dredd hasn't. I feel like it's a few years too early. And I feel like this movie would have been a lot more successful. That's all I can
I
say.
agree. Yeah. I would say that it'd be more successful if it came out around this time than it would have been in 2012.
Yeah.
it'd be like a good Netflix movie.
But also the trailer for Dredd was terrible. Like
Was
I
it?
did not want to see that when I saw that trailer because it was Dredd 3D. That's how it was marketed
Was
as.
it really?
Yes.
What was the trailer like? I never saw it.
It was just bad. Like it was just most generic. Like he's like, oh, you don't belong here, rookie. Like things like that. And it had like it was making a big deal about the fact that it was in 3D and crap. So like, I don't know. It was kind of screwed from the start. Cause like I watched it after it came out in the theater because I thought the movie looked terrible. And I just watched it one day randomly, and I was like, "This movie's actually really, really good." Yeah.
Did
so
they,
I don't know.
Did they? Who made this movie? Do you know what company did?
No,
No, it wasn't Sony, right?
I can look it up. While we're talking.
Because it would make sense because Sony has had this history of ramshacking. Like, if you think about, you guys remember Blade Runner 2049?
Yes.
No, of course not.
Of course not. I hate you, Mark. Like if the one of those like criminally things about that movie is Harrison Ford appearing on all the marketing when Harrison Ford is clearly supposed to be a surprise in the movie, but he's in every trailer and every piece of like marketing. That's clearly a Sony decision. And if Dredd was made by Sony, that makes sense.
Lionsgate.
Okay. See, there goes my entire point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like this movie would have done really well now because we're in that weird craving for like a good action movie does considerably better. Like John Wick 3 is just phenomenal, and it made a lot of money. Now and all of a sudden it's like, oh great, now because they're making a John Wick 4. I'm like, I want to see John Wick 4. After I saw the first John Wick, I would have never said that. Like I can't wait for the fourth one.
And the Raid guys keep getting movies made.
Yeah.
Like they keep getting movies made. So even though like the ones without Gareth Evans aren't as good, like they're still getting more movies made because people want to see their martial arts skills and everything.
Yeah.
So there's that as well.
No,
like, there is a market. And a new Mad Max movie is being made, even though Warner Bros. Hates George Miller. Yeah.
They hate him. Yeah.
It's a Furiosa prequel, right?
Yeah, with potentially Anya Taylor-Joy. So
we've talked about that in our second episode.
Yes.
I know.
Link, put the thing up there.
Maybe we'll see. Just go.
Don't go watch it. I wasn't there. Don't go watch it.
Go scroll that.
Yeah.
Now
it was pre-marked, so that was like back in like the heyday of film products.
We were really good.
The glory days.
Yeah. No. Any final thoughts on Dredd?
I have just one final thought. I think this movie's world building is phenomenal. Like, so this is one of my top movies of the decade. It's on my top 15 movies of the decade. That with Mad Max Fury Road is number 1. Yeah.
Wait, this is in your top 15 of the decade?
Yes.
Dang.
Yeah. And like Mad Max Fury Road, I think this movie has brilliant world. Like you get such a great idea of like the culture in the world just through like what people are wearing, what you're seeing around, and I don't know. I just I get lost in looking at the background and like how people are interacting with each other and what people are wearing and like how people interact with each other. And I feel like there's a lot of brilliant stuff there that really makes the world feel real and lived in.
Yeah, I agree.
Fully agree.
I also really dug the score of this movie.
Yeah, the score is good as well. It's a little generic, but it's like the ending when he's like running on the motorcycle. And it's like just another day in the office.
No, Mark, do you have any final thoughts on the movie? Any final points?
Yeah, I really liked it. And I agree with Matt. The world building was great. Great score. I'm going to give my score now, my official grading. I don't know if it's quite an A. I feel like it's a very high B for me. That's my opinion. So if I were to like on our grading scale, I'd give it a B.
Okay.
Our scale, by the way, is we do our A, B, C, D, F. It's kind of fun to not have plus and minuses, and I think it works well. So Mark would give it a B. Matt?
I'd give it an A.
Yeah,
I've seen it. This is my third time watching it, I think, and it just flies by. And I just like getting like sucked into this world. There's so much depth to it, and I think the action is not like the best films in the world, but I think that I don't know. I get absorbed into it every time. I think it's one of the better Die Hard ripoffs. And
yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah, I think anyone who likes sci-fi or likes action would really enjoy this movie.
I am also going to give this one a B. It's not the best. There are really great moments of it, but I think there's 15 minutes in the movie where that kind of grinds to a halt. And I also thought the inclusions of the psychic and Anderson as a character could have been better developed. But again, it's 93 minutes. Like you cannot beat this movie. You can put it on. It's quick. It's relatively easy to go through. It's really hard to beat, especially now. It is aged incredibly well. The effects are great.
Yeah, no, nothing feels dated about it too, which is pretty incredible.
Which is weird to think because we saw this 8 years ago.
Yeah,
it's really weird to think that.
There's like a lot of practical effects too, so it's not
a really great hand explosion.
Effect. Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
that was really great.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that's I don't know. Was that shot in the trailer?
Any last words, bitch? Funny. I was gonna ask you the same thing. What?
He disappears from the movie after that. Does he die?
Yeah, he
kicks him in the head.
He like kicks his head off. Well, not like he like kicks his head so it like snaps.
Oh, she snaps his neck with a kick?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh, I thought she just knocks him out, and I was like,
no,
oh, great.
You hear like like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Head went back.
Oh my god, who's this actress? What has she done? Do we have any idea?
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't think I've seen
I looked her up. She was the most recent thing she's been in was this TV show Goliath. Because I was like, I feel like I I feel like she's been in more movies. I feel like I recognize her, and she really hasn't been in much.
Which is too bad because I think she's good in the movie.
Yeah,
It's
she's a
also-
good actress.
This is also probably the best thing Carl Urban has done.
The Boys is really good.
I haven't seen The Boys.
He's in Lord of the Rings.
What's he in Lord
Oh,
of the Rings?
right. He is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
He's one of the
he's what's that girl's name? The one who's like no
Eowyn?
man can kill me.
Oh, that's
I'm
him.
not a man.
Oh my god, that's him.
He's the brother. He's like that girl's brother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Eowyn's brother, I think.
Eowyn's brother, and he kills a dragon. He kills a worm at one point.
Well, I guess I think the casting of him is perfect. He's very much now in like we've seen the Witcher show, and now after watching the Witcher, it's very like Henry Cavill's a perfect casting for Geralt. He just seems like the perfect casting for Dredd.
Yeah,
He has
that good face.
Yeah,
Like,
he's got gruff. He's nailed it. That's why I think this is probably his best movie. But also, Carl Urban's not like a big star. They should make.
He's in a lot of good I'm looking at his IMDb.
He's in
A
Star
lot
Trek.
of stuff that I like. Yeah, he's Bones in Star Trek.
But he's like underutilized in Star Trek
He's
because
still
he's a
funny,
good
though.
actor. Wasn't he in the Sonic movie?
I hope not.
Wasn't he the
Really?
main guy with Sonic? I thought he was the main dude with
I
Sonic.
don't know.
No, that's James Marsden. You idiot.
Oh, they're like the same person, aren't they?
No, they're not.
They
Carl
look-
Urban's in good stuff. He's in Doom 2005. He's the main character in that movie.
Oh my god!
Really?
How could we be so foolish?
Yeah, idiot, you forgot about that. He's Scourge in Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he's good in that.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Dennis in Troy.
He's in he's in Red, which is like an okay movie with Bruce Willis.
Is Bruce Willis trying in that movie or no?
He's kind of trying. He plays Kirill in The Bourne Supremacy.
I don't even remember.
Oh, he plays Vaku in Chronicles of Riddick. He's like one of the aliens or whatever.
Okay, I feel like we've established that Dredd is probably his best movie.
Yeah.
So Matt, you give it an A. I give it a
Yes.
B. Mark gives it a high B. Yeah. So that's Dredd. So what have you guys been watching this week? This is basically our section where we talk about stuff we've been watching since the last episode. Mark, what have you been watching?
Earlier this week, I watched the Ingmar Bergman's breakout film "Smiles of a Summer Night." Came out in 1955, and it was made for the Svensk Film Industry Company. And up until this point, Ingmar Bergman had spent most of his time in the theater, and he made a few films in the 40s. I think his first film was like 1944, and then he had one in 48 and then 52, and they didn't do well. And he was really depressed about it. And I think around like Smiles of Summer Night was shot in 1953, and before Ingmar Bergman had wrote the script, he was like, okay, well, things aren't going well. Either I kill myself or I write Smiles of a Summer Night, because he had the idea in his head. And so he went and he wrote it. And it's a comedy, which is quite a change of pace for him, because he's really serious topics he deals with in his movies quite elegantly. And this movie was great. I loved it. It's really funny, and it won the best. It was like the best film of the Cannes Film Festival. And here's a funny story about it: is that one day Ingmar Bergman was on the toilet and he was reading the newspaper, and it says Swedish film director wins everything at Cannes Film Festival. And he's like, "Oh, that's cool." And then he reads it says Ingmar Bergman wrote "Smiles of Summer Night." He's like, "What?" And that's how he found out. He didn't even know that the company had submitted it. And so after that, after the commercial success of that, the Svensk Film Industry Company said to him, "Okay, make whatever the hell you want." And he went and made The Seventh Seal and Wild Strawberries after that, which were, some of the best movies in his filmography and best films of all time. So great movie. I highly recommend it if you want to get into Ingmar Bergman. Matt, go.
Can I ask an Ingmar Bergman question?
Yes.
Is he like a good person, or is he like Stanley Kubrick in the psychopath?
He had a sort of a troubled upbringing.
Yeah.
Is he the guy who him and his brother just tried to kill each other? Is that the thing?
Yeah, they literally tried to kill each other. His father was like a Lutheran minister, and so he had this like strict religious upbringing in Sweden, and he was kind of an atheist, and he just didn't. The way he dealt with this conflict he had in himself was through film.
Yeah.
Because the reason why he's so cherished as a director is because his way of expressing these very complicated ideas through film so elegantly and so, I don't want to say digestible because you really have to think about it, but you get what he's trying to do, even though it takes a while to figure out yourself. It's wonderful. And for a comedy, this movie is a comedy. It's so funny. So many gags that just work. And so yeah, I'll stop there as far as that movie goes. It was great.
Okay.
I then watched an American Werewolf in London, which I loved it. It was so good. It was only an hour and a half, not too long. And
Who's that made by?
Rick Landis, and it came out in 1981.
Max Landis's dad?
No,
John Landis.
John Landis. Sorry, he did the Blues Brothers too. It was great, and the transformation scenes of the werewolf were horrifying.
Is it a comedy?
And it's a horror comedy.
Oh, okay.
Matt, do you remember The Mummy? Do you remember the scenes when Jake Johnson is like haunting Tom Cruise?
Oh, yeah.
That's basically ripped off straight from American Werewolf.
Wow, okay, cool.
So yeah, love that movie. And then I watched The Night of the Hunter, but I won't get into that right now. I love that movie. Go watch it.
Yeah.
And then I watched Andrei Tarkovsky's last film, The Sacrifice, which is having watched that now, I've seen all of Andrei Tarkovsky's work, and it's so good.
Isn't that movie that like killed him?
No, that's Stalker. This is, I think, a year after The Sacrifice came out, when he was basically excommunicated from the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
He made this, I think it was in Italy. This is like the kind of movie that gets me so excited about movies, and I just want to talk about it. I won't go into too much. Like, Andrei Tarkovsky shoots some of the most beautiful films ever made, and he combines it with his such elegant ways of telling his philosophy about life. He's a very spiritual man, and his characters are just absolutely wonderful. And this movie is just beautiful, and it's shot by Sven Nykvist, who was Ingmar Bergman's cinematographer for a majority of his filmography. And I think he's probably the best cinematographer of all time. And he shot this film with Andrei Tarkovsky, and it is immaculate. It is so pleasant to look at. The composition is amazing. The camera movement. I mean, the opening shot of this movie is 10 minutes long. It's like over 10 minutes long. It's crazy.
When did it come out?
Andrei came out in 1986.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it is just so good. It's so good. And so now I'm going to read Andrei Tarkovsky's book, Sculpting in Time, which he talks about making each of these films. And I'm going to read through that, and then I'm going to rewatch all of his movies.
Smacked his mic out of excitement.
I'm so excited. I'm just going to smack my microphone. So
bash his head into the wall just because he's so excited. It's the only way to quell the excitement.
For Tarkovsky.
Yeah. So he's my favorite film director of all time, hands down.
So you're saying you're a communist?
No, he was against the Soviet Union. So
Damn, man.
take that.
Yeah.
No, you
missed
got
out on
me.
that one. Yeah, you got you.
I wish he got to adapt Dostoevsky's book, The Idiot. That would have been great, but he died from cancer from filming Stalker. So that's what I want.
Cancer.
Because he filmed in Bosnia at like a rundown, abandoned chemical factory.
Oh.
And I think everybody who worked on that film died from complications due to cancer.
That's
Yeah,
that's probably not the best place to film, I would imagine.
We should do an episode on Chernobyl someday.
We should do a podcast in the place where he filmed Stalker.
Oh God, yeah.
Just saying.
Remember the room in Stalker? Do you remember that? Like
yes.
the centerpiece of the zone? Yeah,
yes.
Let's go there.
Okay. I'm all down for
you
it.
seen Stalker?
I have watched it in avant-garde film class at college. It was like comp lit 383 or something like that. I don't know. And in comparison to Mark, you're watching Tarkovsky. I have an 8-year-old brother. I went and rewatched. I watched 6 movies since we last did this. It is absurd.
Really?
I want to talk about first before I want to recommend a movie. It's criminally underseen. It's on Hulu. It's called The Sisters Brothers. I watched it. I don't know the director, but it's a wonderful cast of characters. John C. Reilly probably is his best performance. Joaquin Phoenix, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Riz Ahmed. Wonderful, wonderful movie. A little bit slow in the middle, but it is a wonderful kind of relationship between two brothers and exploring that kind of world. A lovely dark comedy. I'd highly recommend it. It is slow though, and it is a little not for the faint of heart at times. Nothing compared to like Bone Tomahawk kind of Western movie, but go see it. It's on Hulu. And then I watched. Okay, so I want to talk about. We vowed not to talk about these individually, but I've been showing my 8-year-old brother the old Marvel movies. I rewatched the original Captain America, the original Thor, and the first Avengers. Damn, Captain America is not a great movie, and neither is Thor.
Whoa.
Thor kind of, well, first off, Thor, the first one kind of sucks. It's
Yeah.
probably the worst or second worst directed MCU movie. I don't know when the last time you guys have seen it, but you know how it's like, oh, it's Dutch tilts. It's like, it's all Dutch
Yeah,
tilts.
the Dutch angles. I hate it. I hate
It's
those.
like, it's like
If they're used wrong.
65%. It's all of that. It's absurd, but it's also like, it has good performances. Tom Hiddleston, I forgot how great he was. He's legitimately good in the movie, but it's also just really stale. And then Captain America is just it's just dated. But there's this really weird simplicity to it, because now we're in like a post-Endgame context, and like the final, and like Captain America like punching Nazis is like kind of like charming now, and how
Yeah.
simple it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And then the first Avengers movie, I've seen this thing since theaters. I've seen it. This is like my 4th time. And it's weird to observe how what I've really loved about that movie has shifted. Because when I was younger, I was like, oh, action movie, action, action. So like the first part where they're all fighting, and then the end parts are my favorite. But I rewatched it, and there's this nice 40 minutes where they're on the helicarrier, and it's just a lot of like talking, and it's a lot of like character stuff, character in a Marvel movie, but it's lovely, and it's my favorite part of the movie. So I can say now Captain America has not held up, neither has Thor, and Avengers is pretty solid. And then I watched The Graduate, and it's a very, very funny movie, and then it turns into a really, really creepy movie, and it's lovely.
Yeah, it does.
It's
I don't like the end. I mean, the ending in terms of the story. The
that's
final
the
shot
point.
holds on. Yeah, it holds for like a long time, and it's like I don't know. I'm like, is this?
Well, I think that's the
I
point.
don't know how to describe it.
Well, I feel like I can spoil The Graduate, considering it came out 53 years
60.
ago. Yeah, 1967. I feel like that's the point of the shot, because we've just seen this absurd movie where Dustin Hoffman basically destroys a family, breaks up a marriage, and then they kind of he assaults the dad at the end to get away, and they lock everyone in a church, and then they're both on escaping on a bus, and they have to kind of the camera holds, and you kind of have to they're reflecting on their actions, and it's lovely. It's great. It's also there's Dustin Hoffman has this really great awkward charm in the first half that had me laughing considerably. He just occasionally he'll just go meh, and make little noises when something's happening. It's really entertaining. I really recommend it. It's also on Hulu.
Did you read Roger Ebert's review?
Yeah, he backpedaled a lot of it. He loved it.
It's a great review. It's a great review of it.
Yeah, he wrote it, and he's like, this is great. He kind of criticizes a lot of the use of sound of Simon and Garfunkel, because that is a little weird now. Because the movie's an hour and 45 minutes, and 15 minutes of it are just Simon and Garfunkel songs playing in their entirety. So that has aged a little bleh. But yeah, he basically backpedals on it, and he's like, oh, this movie's I don't know how it holds up. He backpedals. But yeah, those are movies I've seen. Matt, what have you seen?
Well, the same as last week. I'm still deep into The Last of Us 2 and New Japan Cup.
Oh my god!
So I guess I can talk about those. Well, first of all, I finished season 6 of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So
okay.
It was all right. I like the seasons 4 and 5 a lot more because they had longer plots going. They had overarching plots throughout the season, which I liked more. And I'm on season 7. I'm halfway through season 7 right now, and it's fine. It's just
it's fine. Yeah,
the jokes are just repeated now. And then they had this awful Debbie character who she's gone now, but man, she was terrible.
I feel like they wrote her off. I feel like the reception to her wasn't great, and they wrote her off.
Yeah, she was not good. So I guess like Last of Us 2, I'm really enjoying so far. I've been playing. I'm like 9 hours in, and it's like I'll just talk about like one scene that I think is really good. It's just a small like confrontation. You're in like you're in a metro, an abandoned metro, and you're being hunted by like this faction called the Wolves, and like this scene like really made me realize how beautiful video games have become, because you're in like this dark area, and then like there's like these red lights start blaring, and like you can see like dust particles flying up in like the giant like lurid red lights, and then so there's zombies in the metro too, and you're sneaking around, and basically I grabbed like a bottle, I threw it, and it caused all the zombies to go crazy and start attacking like the soldiers, and I escaped that way. So like there's so much cool like ways you can interact with this world, and I really liked that. Like it felt very cinematic in a way, because like I used like my wit to cause both sides to fight each other instead of fighting me, and I snuck away. So like it felt really cinematic in that way. Not like, because Naughty Dog games use like cutscenes a lot to feel very cinematic, but like you kind of you feel like you're really into this world because of how you interact with it. And I thought that was really cool and is really beautiful. And I was surprised by how cinematic it all felt, despite the fact that I was in gameplay. And then hard cut to yesterday, I was playing, and I died like 30 times in this one section because I kept getting spot for no reason at all, and I got mad. I just sprinted through it. So sometimes it kind of breaks, sometimes it doesn't. But like in that instance, like I was able to use like my environment to make it really cool moments. And yeah, New Japan Cup is great. There's a match where where one guy was trying to cut off the hair of the other guy with scissors. So he came down the ring with a helmet, and the whole fight is just based off of that. And it ends with one of the guys taping the guy's arms behind his back and cutting off a piece of his hair, and the other guy getting really mad and then just taping over his face and throwing him in an elevator and putting it down, and then he got a count out victory. So like, I don't know, it was pretty funny.
I like to imagine you by yourself in the dark just laughing.
Yeah, New Japan is great because they can both be like, it can both feel like a simulated fight in one match and then be a completely absurd match in the next. So I don't know, like I'll have more movies to watch probably next week, but this is just what I've been watching.
My favorite part about this is if you track us, you can see our level of enthusiasm with wrestling. Matt's clearly the most excited. I like it, and Mark just looks like he wants to die.
Yeah,
he just wants to die right now. Yeah.
I don't get the appeal, but Matt,
you liked it when we went to LOL.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're there in person, I feel like the only credit I can give to wrestling is that it has Werner Herzog's attention. he watches it, so maybe he sees something in it that I don't, and I need to look closer.
You're not as smart as Werner Herzog, clearly.
Yeah.
Obviously,
you don't get the.
I'm not claiming that.
All right, so that's what
Some Dead Wrestling podcast is going to be out.
Yeah. That's a new part of it's gonna be wrestling frauds. That's gonna be the frauds that are gonna be our trademark throughout. All right. Are we doing a regular recommendation, or are we doing our new special series that Mark will talk about because he's doing? I think
Mark wants to do Night of the Huntsman next.
Are we doing that individual movie, or are we doing our super secret special series?
Our super secret special series that I should talk about right now?
If you don't want to do Night of the Hunter.
Yeah.
We should have talked about this before.
Yeah, whatever.
We'll do it on the fly. We'll do it live. The next for the next movie that we're going to review, it's my recommendation. It's the 1955 film called The Night of the Hunter, and it stars Robert Mitchum and Shelley Winters, and it's a hallmark of American cinema, one of the best films of the 50s, and one of, I think, the best films to ever come out in America. Which we'll be reviewing next. And so should I discuss the series that we're going to be doing?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So now we are branching off our normal videos. We're going to be doing a director's series where we take a closer look at a director's filmography, choose probably around 3 to 4 films that we want to discuss the most, and we'll probably break that up into 3 or 4 videos. And it has been set in stone what the first director that we'll be analyzing, but that will be coming soon.
Yeah, it looks like
in conjunction with our normal videos.
Yeah, we'll probably each choose a director and then do 3 or 4, and then kind of alternate it. So 1 week will be Mark, 1 week will be me, 1 week will be Matt, as to mix it up so you're not getting 3 movies of 1 director. Well, yeah,
Mhm.
like we talked about earlier, kind of going into depth on their philosophy behind filmmaking, trying to provide like a history element to it, which I think could be cool. Who knows?
Mhm.
This could tank horribly, and we just
Yeah,
go, nah,
probably will.
probably will, realistically. So yeah, that's the episode. Matt, do you have anything to say at the end? Any call to action?
If you want a wrestling podcast, please write so in the comments. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our video and like it and share it with your friends if you thought that our banter was good and our insights on film were professional.
Which we hope.
Comment who you think the best of the three of us are.
I mean,
Let
it's
us know.
me, but
It's me.
you know.
No, it's not.
Hey,
It's-
Tyler, both wearing red shirts today.
I know. Look at us.
I'm wearing red.
Let's team up against Mark.
I lied. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, thanks guys for watching. Listen to what Matt said, and yeah, Matt. Any final?
Thank you, Carl Urban.
Thank you, Carl Urban.
I'm Carl Irvin, and I approve of film frauds.